When it comes to planting trees, most people may think spring is the only time to get them in the ground, but that's not necessarily the case. In this week's In the Garden, sponsored by Johnson Brothers Garden Market, KEZI 9 News anchor Chelsea Deffenbacher explains.
I'm here with Caleb Johnson out at Johnson Brothers Garden Market, and today people might be asking if this is a good time to plant a tree, but you say it's an ideal time, so do you want to tell us why?
Yeah, so fall is nice because the ground has been warmed up from the summer and you're starting to get some rainfall. And so the combination of warm soil and wet soil, cooler temperatures, really make a tree or a shrub want to root into the ground and grow. So instead of waiting for spring, when sometimes it's early spring when the soil is wet and cold and soggy, it's a really great time to plant trees and shrubs in the fall.
And what are the first steps that someone should take if they want to plant a tree or a shrub in the fall?
Yeah, the first step is kind of eyeball the size of your container. And a lot of people think they have to dig a really big hole. You only really need to dig a hole that's about 1.5 to 2 times wider than the size of the pot that you've got, and no deeper than the pot. You don't need to dig a huge hole, just something big enough for the roots to actually branch out from where they've been growing in the container. So that's the number one thing for planting, is dig the appropriate size hole.
Okay, and then what do you do after that?
So the other thing you really want to think about doing is adding in a conditioner or compost mix with the soil that you dug out. Now the reason you do that is you want the plants, the trees and shrubs, to get used to growing in the soil you have in your yard, but you also want to make sure they've got a really nutrient dense soil to grow into. So mixing the conditioner or compost with your natural soil you have at your home gives you kind of the best of both worlds. So that's what you're going to mix and put back in the hole. And then the other thing I really recommend doing is helping those roots wake up when you've got the plant in the hole. So that's a root stimulator. There's granular ones, there's liquid ones, doing something to kind of help the plant realize, hey, it's time to root out and root into the ground.
Okay, are there any other tips that you have?
Yeah, the other thing is a lot of people think, oh, it's fall, the rain is enough to keep everything wet. Sometimes it is. Sometimes our rainfall is very intermittent in the fall. So I definitely would recommend doing a deep watering after planting. And hopefully from there you don't have to water much again, but keep an eye on the rainfall. You may have to do a supplemental watering or two before we get our heavier rains for the season.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for In the Garden. Back to you in the studio.